All right, so welcome to this week's Couch Time with Cataya. And today's guest is Catherine. And we had a bit of a drop in and a little bit of a download of some things that would be really good to connect into in regards to her chart today. And one of the things we were just talking about before dropping fully into this call is how the things that I talk about or the things that get brought up in charts are very helpful to know about because there'll be themes that play out in our lives, or there'll be major obstacles to overturn or things that we're here to really understand about the deeper workings of who we are. And so I know Catherine from doing my counseling studies with her and definitely having a lot of playtime. Oh, I'm going to also put a timer on because I can be phenomenal for timing. So there we go, 30 minutes on the clock. Okay. Um, so Catherine, you just finished doing some more studies. So you've now become an educator, which I think is a beautiful combination to bring together your counseling studies and understanding like the deeper inner workings of self and helping people through issues and scenarios that arise, and then combining that in with becoming a teacher and being able to really help people in that avenue. So do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Um, well, so far um, so far, I guess I've mostly just been substitute teaching because I just graduated. And yeah, I guess every day you're with a whole new group of little kids, new people, and you have to figure them all out and help them through all their conflicts and all the like things they don't want to do and do want to do. So I feel like the counseling has come in very handy for that. And also just for me being more aware of myself. That's probably the biggest thing it does for me is more aware of myself and how I interact with people and students. And then I can reflect on situations easier than I maybe could have 10 years ago or whenever I, before all the counseling and things that happened in life.
Well, and it's such a foundational piece, I think, having counseling and being trained in counseling, like no matter what's happening in our life, to be able to bring those pieces in, to be able to, have those tools in the tool belt and understand how to look at things from different angles and perspectives. And
Yeah, very valuable.
yes. And something that I think over life as well will, especially if there's a natural inclination towards personal growth, will continue to evolve itself as well.
Yeah, hopefully I have no doubt that I'm going to be changing and evolving for my whole life. And according to all my every time I get a horoscope reading or anything, it's like my life is just like a whole thing of growth and evolving. And I'm like, can't I have a break ever? Can I just have a break? But no.
And the nice thing is you're not alone in that as well too. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's like a hiatus, like personal growth break from, yeah,
Yeah.
life, bringing in more lessons and teaching and interweavings, right? Yeah.
It is fun in its own way. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll do a tiny mantra. It's the one that I usually work with, which it's just one that I work with in my regular practice, and it's working with Ganesh and just calling in the energies to really bring in like a solidification of our container as we're diving into your chart, because it's something very personal. And that's why I'm always really appreciative of anybody who's open to having their chart looked at and some points looked at as well. Yes, it's our life walk. It's our karmic blueprint that we're here to move through. And, it really does highlight like what our struggles will be or what the things are that we're going to be moving through. And also the blessings of what it looks like to really dive into those things if we're willing and available. And I do like the saying, and I think it's very true, that if there's certain learnings or certain growth that we're meant to go through, we can either embrace it and really step into it, or we can be pulled kicking and screaming into the realms of like, this is something your soul needs to overturn in this life. And so you can either go the soft way or you can go the hard way. And a lot of the time too, if it's like the soft way and we step into it, then life will also support us. And if we don't, life will usually take away from us and will, it'll just, it's, um, not in a way that necessarily is like it's always for our best good, but some of us will step in with ease and some of us will have more resistance. or be more stubborn in that process. So yes. Okay, so Ganesh, so there's a new piece that I've been working with as well that's coming through some of my teachers. And that is that when we think of Ganesh, we're breaking obstacles. And so again, I'm wearing green today because it is Gemini focused day today. So it's mercurial in nature. So green is the color for Wednesdays. And so with working with Ganesh, we're basically breaking the obstacles, we're breaking the patterns that can be in our way. And I think all of us probably want to break free or break away from certain things that hold us in place. And so when we're doing the mantra, so the mantra that I work with is Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha, and then pulling on both hands, and it's 3 times this way and then 3 times this way. So I'll just do it comfortably resting down, and I'll do the mantra for us. And so again, it's kind of relaxed, and then we pull. So it's like we're pulling apart or breaking apart those pieces that are holding us in ways of being. So Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha, and then reversing. Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha, Om Gan Ganapataye Namaha. Okay, so
I
all
did it enough times. I wasn't sure if I was doing it at the right times. There's no wrong to that.
yeah, and even just like intention is so key, and just even working with the mantra itself is so powerful at helping to really work with the pieces that we're wanting to work with, like Ganesh. I know I've said this in other videos, but basically is the keeper that holds the space for all of the deities and the energies that are beyond us in the higher up realms. And also the lower realms. So whenever we're doing any kind of work or anything's coming forward, we always want to make sure that we're working with higher consciousness energies that are helping us to really move forward in our lives and move forward in the intentions that we have. We can definitely dabble with ways to call in, other energies, right? Substances and different things can definitely attract in or open up our energy field for other things to come in, and then we can be dealing with life and life situations that actually take us down into dark places versus like ascending and really doing the work to move into higher states of consciousness. Okay, so la 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 la. So okay, I was I was excited to go into this because I've been doing so much relationship study. And I finished a whole rabbit hole training that I've been down that I'll be bringing pieces forward that I just think are so, so helpful. I mean, who doesn't struggle with relationship stuff? If you can see it in someone's charting, if they have like a magnificent like relationship alignment and there's just no hiccups and it's just like a blessed connection. And there's ways to create a situation to become blessed. There's ways to bring in remedies as well, and to really move out debilitations and things in our own chart. So the piece that really stood out to me is that you have something in your chart which is called Moha Yoga. And it's a placement where you're like, what's happening?
Oh.
What is this? So we all have different yogas. So again, just knowing that we all have different challenges, we have different areas that we've already evolved to coming into this lifetime. So they're just challenges that our soul is going to evolve from and grow from if we really step into it. And so moha is known as like disillusionment or like a distortion. And so it's when it's basically it's when certain planets are connecting. So when Rahu, so I'm trying to make sure not to get too jargony, but when Rahu sits in a sign that it aspects, and then that aspect is having an effect on the 7th house, which is the house of relationships, it opens up this yoga. And so your Venus is being aspected by Rahu, and Rahu is basically so Rahu's position it's in is in Taurus, and that's Venus. So it's called the dispositor. And so it's basically the energy of that house that it's already in is looking at the house of Venus, and then Venus is looking at your seventh house. So you do have a debilitation on your Venus, which means that it actually reverses some of these qualities, which is good.
Okay,
So
good.
if it was,
Like, oh no.
well, if it was in its full, if it was in its full essence, basically what you would see is you would see love, sex, and fantasy addicts. You would see somebody who is extremely narcissistic in nature. You would see somebody who is focused on trying to establish or find like the perfect relationship and the perfect sexual experience. So there's like an obsession that happens there. You can see pornography addicts that can come in really, really strongly. And I'm just saying, I'm giving the
No, no,
full,
no.
and then
I'm just,
yeah.
yeah. I was just like, but those are the men I date.
Well,
So
it's
maybe.
say, so what happens when you have a debilitation is this is what you attract in. So there is you can see a lot of like in this position you can see someone who might be like quite often like a cheater, someone who will lie quite often, somebody who is really obsessed with sexual experiences, and there's like a need to want to like have like the experience of all experiences. And you can also see a lot of substance use as well too, because there's like a need to try to like make that happen on a superficial level versus doing the inner work where you actually move into higher states of being and have some of these really blissful experiences or establish a very blissful way of being by doing the work. So, and I've come into contact with some people that have this yoga, and I can say it's definitely a full-fledged yoga that really plays itself out. So with a debilitation, you're like, great. So with a debilitation, it does mean that you will attract in partners that are dealing with these pieces. So whether it be, maybe they might be tipping a little bit more, again, depends on a few different factors, but they might be more narcissistic in nature. So you're kind of dealing with that component, or they might be sex addicts, or be very infused or very drawn into trying to continually evolve something forward. Like it's almost like they can have a nature of like wanting to bring forward like the highest level of like kink, or like being in a place of just not being able to be satisfied with the regular experience of like a sexual connection, that it always has to get exasperated into another level. And so with your position, it's the awareness is very, very key. First and foremost is being able to have that awareness. And your Venus does sit in what's called a sandy point, which means it's right at the house point where the second house and the first house are being influenced. So Saturn does take away some of the energy, because Saturn sits in your second, to bring down some of that energy so that you're also taking time to hyper focus on what you attract in. So when you were younger, you probably wouldn't have had that ability so much so, but as you're getting older, you would have like that initiation of Saturn would become a little bit stronger, where you're also going to have more introspection to what's coming into your life. So it gives more ability to start to strengthen and have more awareness. And again, too, as we go through different experiences in our life, and we're like, okay, I've experienced this happen over and over, or I've had certain situations play themselves in certain ways. We start to, the lessons of what that experience is, or the lessons of this placement, start to become stronger.
So basically I have this thing which makes me kind of attracted to that type of person, but also I'm a little bit of it too. And then, but as I get older, I will be able to learn the lessons to like stop doing that.
Well, you're going to strengthen the awareness. So the awareness of like when we're younger, it's like these things are just happening, and sometimes we're just in automatic pilot. Like there isn't the hindsight to be able to reflect. Like even this type of placement would have really brought you into counseling. It would have brought you into wanting to study counseling, to be able to understand for yourself, like any of these indicators, when they're really strong, they're going to want us to help us to evolve ourselves and to grow ourselves. And so we're going to be drawn to personal development. So we have a stronger understanding of ourselves, a stronger understanding of others. and then being able to really work with some of these different pieces that can be quite challenging. So it typically will involve relationships where that type of person will be drawn to you, and you're going to be naturally drawn to that type of person. So it's helpful to be aware of it, because then of course we can support ourselves, right? We can check and see, okay, like what are the indicators? Can I slow down this connection to see, am I going to see these different indicators coming up to the surface? Am I able to recognize the traits ahead of time? Am I able to differentiate what feels natural to be drawn to versus what really is good for me in the big picture? And of course, we're all here students and going through the life path, and nothing is ever, I would say, ever a wrong situation or a wrong scenario. But of course, like anything, we don't necessarily want to continue to put ourselves into situations that are very hurtful and harmful on a consistent basis, preferably.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Is there a point where I'll just stop being attracted to that type of guy? Does that ever happen for me, or no? Do I just have to make conscious decisions?
Well, I mean,
No.
well, I first of all, like when I look back to how we've known each other for quite some time, and
Yeah.
when we look back to like doing our counseling studies together and really talking about our lives and our life journeys and things like that, I can already see that you're in a different place in yourself, to as we should be, to that time frame. So once we start to get clear on these things and we're able to really talk to them and talk through them, that's number one. Two is recognizing it's in our chart, like what we're doing right now, and myself bringing awareness to this yoga that you have is going to be so helpful, because then it's just like the indicators are there to be like, okay, before I jump into like a situation, or taking time to really analyze and slow things down, and to really check in whether these indicators are coming up with somebody. And to, like, as soon as we get that little buggy sense, and as soon as we have questions coming up right away, that's usually an indicator like, okay, there's something more going on. It's not just a F yes, like move ahead. It's like, okay, there's something's not quite right, and being able to take the time to figure out what that is. And it is, I mean, your Venus is aspecting your first house as well as your moon and your Mars. So what that does, and because you have your Venus and your Mars together, like the person that you would attract, you would have your sensuality and your sexuality would be very matching in a lot of ways for this type of personality, because you're going to be more connected with yourself with a partner. So whenever we see Venus and Mars, and it's called a 1-1 conjunction, it does bring in like a lot of like the ability to be very intimate and very connected, and to bring forward your sensual nature. So again, it's just being able to discern how you let that come into your life in the right way. And Venus is looking at your 7th house. So this is all about the reflection of yourself and who you are. There's a lot of emotion that comes up in your connections, because Moon is right in the middle of your Mars and your Venus. So any connection that comes in, there's going to be a lot of processing and thinking and like connecting into like the bigger picture of what that is. It's going to be something that naturally is going to be strong for you to need to like almost like break it down and to look at it and to get it behind the emotions of it. And there can be a little bit of a roller coaster emotional ride because of Moon sitting in the first between these places as well too, that you can go through some emotional ups and downs when it comes to relationships for sure. Yeah.
So lots of emotions and lots of thinking when relationships are happening. Cool.
Yeah, and the third way to really support this, and this is something that we can talk about off camera as well, is there are remedies to bring in to help to like neutralize some of the properties as well too that are taking place. So ways to support these planets or these positions so that it does bring forward an ability to start to like almost like it's like if there's like the elephant in the room, but we don't see that the elephant is in the room, then we can't do anything about the elephant in the room. As soon as we're aware of the elephant in the room, then we can actually start to work with it to support it. So it's like it's again embracing what we've come into this lifetime to experience on one level, while also being able to bring in ways to like, okay, is the elephant hungry? Let's feed the elephant. Is the elephant needing to have a drink? Okay, we can give the elephant some water. Is it comfortable? Let's give it a blanket. And then getting to a place of actually, now that I have a harness on this experience, I can actually take the elephant out of the room. It no longer needs to be in the room. Like it can actually, I can free it. And so there are ways to like free these experiences. Obviously they've come in to be a teacher for us, but then also there is a way to get behind it so we actually transform it. So it's called Vastu remedies, and there's medium Vastu remedies that we can bring in that help to just neutralize the energies. And then there's very succinct ones specifically for very core things that are happening. And with this one here, I would say this is a core placement. So it's really helpful to support it. And I'll go into one other point. You're probably like, I'm full.
No, no.
That's enough information. So I just wanted to reference, and this is always really helpful. And I think it's so supportive just to be able to, again, see these things that we've maybe struggled with in our life or have been a bit harder, is that the ninth house is the house of wisdom teachers. It's the house of gurus. It's the house of father teachings. And so usually if that has like a really benefic planet there, or it's really supported, then what happens is we get really good teachings from our father, and it's like very supportive and it's really nourished and nurtured. And if there's malefic aspects on it, then basically it reverses that kind of quality. So your Rahu is sitting in the ninth house, and it's also being aspected by Pluto. And it is also being aspected by Jupiter as well. So what that does is it does distort the connection with father. It creates a hard relationship with father. So, and I have Pluto and Sun sitting together in my fourth house, so I get it. And so, what this does is it does bring in, because Jupiter is also looking at this house, it's like a lot of your teaching and growth is coming through from having to deal with, situations that are harder in regards to fathers and fathers' teachings.
So specifically the father, but also things I might have just learned from being in relationship with him, kind of thing.
Yeah, everything to do like whatever, whenever we think of like, who's somebody that's going to really anchor to bring in like wisdom for us in this life and really help us to like walk the walk of life. Like you would have to come to those conclusions on yourself, in yourself in a lot of ways, because those won't have been necessarily given to you directly from your father. If anything, there's going to be distortions in teachings. So the things that like, we would think like, okay, good morals, ethics, values, like ways of like operating and being, what does that look like? Do we have like a strong foundation of like how to live our life? Do we understand the consequences of like, what it looks like to show up in a good way towards others, or is that distorted, right? We think of, the foundations of like when we see the karmic replay of things come forward, it's like, are we given the foundation to understand how to walk this life in a way that supports us and supports others? And so with this placement, there definitely would be, the need for yourself to almost do a little bit of like parenting yourself in this area, and also unwinding and unweaving some of the components that would be, what you maybe have been taught versus what you teach yourself. So having gone through like, say, like counseling training or like becoming a teacher and all the things that you would have learned, I'm sure there's probably a lot of moments where there's reflection where it's like, okay, that wasn't maybe what was taught to me in my childhood, or there's a contradiction that's showing itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll make sense.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously I could continue to go on and on, but I also don't want to flood people with too much information or flood you with too much information. But those are the things that really stand out. And yeah, I think it's just so helpful to have this awareness, because then we can really support ourselves in the best ways possible, which you're already doing on so many levels.
Yeah, trying. Yes, yeah.
It's a process and a journey.
Yes, it is, yeah. Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, so I will stop I'm almost at time. Oh my gosh, I did well today. Okay, so I will stop the video. And I just want to thank you again for being open and vulnerable and to be able to, deep dive into these areas together. Yes, I can't hear you, but
Oh,
I picked up what you were saying.
okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I just said thank you for your time and expertise. That's all.
Oh, thank you. Stop the video.